Block. Pull up in the gold, I'm leading. But them other man need feeding. I don't wanna go Bombay. Them I don't know what I do when I go from Beeling. Leading the pack in black and I'm on with a bat. Snapping with a phone and boss up a man with a duster. Put him in the drip and...
Yo, what's up guys? It's your boy Nitrostorm here. Back with part 2 of my Zhongli showcase. So this time the update 1.3 has arrived. And now we're going to be doing the exact same stuff with a little bit added onto it due to his new passives. Other than that, we're going to be able to compare the damage between all the types of bosses unless something interesting pops up. Alright, in any case, let's just go over the build real quick and then we'll get started. Alright, so we're currently having the artifact with the Geo damage bonus. Here's the weapon. Going over the artifacts real quick. You can go ahead and pause for each one, and then that's the Geo damage goblet, and then this is the HP percent. So now we're going to see if HP affect, like how the HP is now affecting the damage compared to the Geo damage bonus. Because as you can see in the talents, it's now a pretty long description of the stuff that is saying here. So we'll quickly go over the buffs. So the Jade Shield now has 150% damage absorption against all elemental and physical damage. This used to be 300% Geo damage absorption and nothing else. So this is essentially a buff to all elements while quote unquote nerfing the Geo damage absorption. And then the next part, it says that characters protected by the Jade Shield will decrease the elemental and physical res of opponents in a small AoE by 20%. So if you're using ranged characters such as Ganyu, it will still work, but you'd have to be basically in melee range, so I wouldn't really suggest doing that. And then the next part is, I'm not sure if I can find it here, but if you do, oh here it is, if you hold E and there's no pillar that is already created, or your C2 and you only made one so far, it'll create another one. And then the next buff is the talent. Zhongli deals bonus damage based on his max HP. So normal attack, charged and plunging has increased damage by 1.39% of max HP. His E, the damage of placing down the pillar, as well as the resonance, as well as when you're holding E, all of that damage is increased by 1.9% of max HP. And lastly, the ultimate damage is increased by 33% of max HP. So from what I've said in the previous video, I said that this new change should increase the damage of his burst as well. So we'll find that out. But first, now that we've got all the builds and stuff out of the way, just to quickly show you is the cons. Just to get out of the way, we're going to be taking a look at his normal attacks, his E, and the resonance against the same big boy Lawachurl. Alright, so now we're here. We are using the Geo damage goblet this time. Here are the stats real quick. So now, we're not going to use his hold E just yet, so we'll find out the damages before using the hold E, because the hold E reduces all elemental res as well as physical res. So we'll take a look at the normal attacks. As you can see, there's already a difference in terms of the damage compared to the previous video in part 1. So now let's take a look at the press E. So 467 on the crit. And then let's take a look at the resonance. So 592. So compared to previously, it does pretty much double damage. I'm assuming that the bonus damage in terms of HP might be ignoring defense or something like that. Alright, now let's take a look at the charge attack. Oh, my apologies for this, guys. I hold. Let's try the charge attack. 861. And then for the slam attack, the plunging, about 1.1k. Alright, now let's go check the HP. Alright, so now we have the HP build. As you can see, we have the HP Goblet instead. Here are the stats. So of course you have considerably less Geo damage with a little bit higher crit and crit damage. So first take a look at the normal attacks. So as you can see, compared to the Geo damage build, we're already doing more damage. Let's crit at the last hit, so 903 compared to about 700 on the other one. Now let's take a look at the damage here. Take a look at the resonance. If we can get it to crit. So one more, there you go, 519. So it's still a little less. It's still a little bit less compared to the Geo damage percent, but at least it does more damage. And I think the gap between has, I think it's became smaller or about the same. Alright, so this guy's going a bit crazy right now. Alright, let's take a look at the charged. So 938, which is higher than the other one. And then plunge attack is about 1.2k. Alright, now let's take a look at this with the hold E. So with the shield up. Alright, so before we take a look at the hold E damage of the Geo damage goblet one, so we have less HP, I can already tell that if you want to do a more DPS, main Zhongli DPS kind of build, then you'd have to obviously switch artifacts and either focus on having both HP and attack perhaps, compared to having Geo damage bonus, because all of Zhongli's basic normal attacks, plunging, charge, they're all physical damage based. In any case, let's do hold E now, and then take a look at the resonance damage if we're close. So 987, which is pretty nice on crits, and then we're now doing more damage here as well. So 1.1k now, which is pretty nice. Alright, let's place one down and then wait about 4 seconds to hold E again. Alright, hold. Alright, so now let's take a look at the charge attack. So 1.2k on the charge attack. And now let's take a look at the plunging. 1.5k. Alright, now let's take a look at the HP based build for the damage. Now we're going to be using the HP Goblet version to do the exact same thing. Alright, so now again hold E. So let's take a look at the resonance, so 866. And then let's take a look at the damage of the normal attacks. So considering that considering my sands is HP based, the damage I'm doing right now is actually pretty nice. Alright, oh, that's my bad. So let's take a look at the charge attack damage now. So 1.3k. And then before this breaks, let's do a plunge attack. Okay, that one didn't crit, so we have to try that again. Oops. Alright, hold on guys. Okay, well, 6% crit, are we? Oh. There you go, 1.7k crit on the plunge. So gotta keep in mind, by the way, that this guy is pretty resilient in pretty much everything. So that's why the numbers are looking pretty low. In any case, now that we've checked all the damage against this guy, we are now going to be moving on to using our nukes against the same enemies as we did in part 1. Alright guys, so now that we're here, back to where we started, we're going to be ulting the F2P agent. As you can see from my HP, it's lower, so this is the Geo damage goblet. And from the buffs and the changes to his passive wording, it should mean that the damage of his burst should be higher. So 31.8k. Alright, so I checked back because I thought that number was a little bit, it sounded a little familiar. So I checked back at the part 1 of the Zhongli video that I created, and it seems that the damage is, guess what, exactly the same as part 1. So from what that means is, it seems that all they did in terms of the ultimate damage is they didn't exactly change the behavior of this passive, they just reworded it. But essentially, well, it's either that or it's bugged. But I'm probably leaning towards that it's that's how they intended it. They only intended to reword. But you know, it might actually be an issue. But in any case, it's in this video now. You guys can see that the ulti damage from pre-buff and post-buff of the same ultimate is exactly the same in terms of number. So we're not going to be doing that for the other bosses. So instead, we're going to be moving on to do his elemental burst with his shield, and then doing that again, but this time along with the Geo Resonance. Alright, so now we're back. This time we're going to be using the hold E, and then we're going to ultimate as while we're in range of his passive. Come in here and then we ulti. So 37.1k for the Geo damage build. Alright, let's move on now with the HP build. We're going to be doing the same thing, hold E, get close, and then do the ultimate, the burst, elemental burst. So 33.9k. Alright guys, so now we're back. This time we're going to be doing the full package. So in order for this to work, in order for resonance to be activated, you need to have 4 people in, you need to have a full party first of all, and then it'll take a look at how many of each element you have. So in this case, you only have Geo, so you get Enduring Rock, and no, they don't stack, so I don't have Endurance Rock twice, it's only once. In any case, now that's out of the way, we're gonna be doing the same thing. Yo, Zhongli, I'm trying to speak here. In any case, you hold E, and then we get close, and then we do our ultimate. Let's see how much damage you do. 39.8k. So, definitely an improvement compared to the last time. This time, we're going to be taking a look at the HP goblet. Alright guys, just a quick sneak peek on what I do behind the scenes to get my ulti back up. So I do this, and I switch to Zhongli, put this down, well, so I was supposed to put that down, and I use Ding Wong, get 3 more energy, and then I get my energy back. Alright, this time we're doing the exact same thing, but with HP percent goblet. Alright, let's take a look now. So hold E, move out of the way, and then ulti. So 37.2k. Alright, interesting. Alright, so from the looks of it, so I checked back from the footage, I'll show it up here as well. You can see that when I only do Zhongli's E, so his hold E, the damage between the two have a larger difference compared to if I have Geo Resonance and the hold E when I did my elemental burst. The HP percent goblet kind of caught up in the difference in terms of damage, whereas the Geo percent goblet didn't increase much in damage after I activated his hold E as well as the Geo Resonance. So from our previous video, I've said that when I attacked the Lawachurl and the Ruin Guard, the damage between all 3, including the Fatui agent, was about the same. So since I've already compared all 3 types of doing the elemental burst, we can see that the damage buff is from his passives and not the wording of the ultimate. So it's still, I guess, a flat increase of 33% of max HP, unfortunately, unless there's actually an issue or a bug. But for now, I'm going to believe that it's still flat 33% and they only reworded it. So now, we're going to be moving on to floor 7, of course. We're going to be doing the exact same experiment, this time in 3 different stages. One without anything, just to double check. Then the second time with hold E with Zhongli only. And then the third time with hold E and Geo Resonance. Alright, so before I move on, I said that there's going to be 3 stages, but it's actually going to be 3 stages in 2 parts. So the first part will be just the 120% crit damage increase, and the second part will also have the 3 stages, but this time with the in-room upgrade, which is 20% elemental burst damage increase. Without further ado, let's get this started. Alright, so for the first one, we're just going to double check the damage of the Q on its own to see if it is the same as pre-buff, because even though they changed the description of the HP damage increase, that it would still be the same. I'm just going to confirm that it's still the same by doing this, and then we'll go back to the actual experiment. Alright. So 50.4k, yep, it's still the exact same. Alright guys, this is experiment part 1, Geo damage percent section, no elemental damage burst increase. 58.8k, 63.1k. Alright, experiment part 1, HP Goblet version, no elemental burst damage increase. 52.8k, 57.9k. Alright, so just to recap of the first experiment, we can see that the damage with even just the Zhongli hold E alone without the Geo Resonance, it's already dealing quite a significant, significant number. That you can tell the difference in terms of damage. I'll show the differences here, the before and after. And when it comes to hold E as well as the Geo Resonance, the damage has increased further. But if we compare the differences in damage between HP percent and the Goblet, we can see that the difference between the two, I think, had a similar difference regardless if it was with Geo Reso or with hold E or with both. Right, moving on to experiment 2. Alright, experiment part 2, Geo damage Goblet with elemental burst damage increase. 64.6k, 68.9k. Alright, so experiment part 2, HP percent Goblet with elemental burst damage increase. 59.6k, 64.6k. Alright, so that's the second experiment done. So from the looks of it, we can see that there's a similar trend to pre-buff where HP percent does seem to catch up a little bit once we added in that that elemental burst damage increase, where the gap between HP percent and Goblet percent decreases. But yeah, so that's all for the experiments. So before we end off the video with my final conclusion, like which Goblet is best and my thoughts on the buffs, time to see him in action, which I didn't do in part 1.
いざ揺らぐことなし揺らぐことなし天道ここにある攻勢震えよ攻勢天理超岩山八九たは難攻不落攻勢天道ここにあるせは天道万象岩山八九は 敵一先陣
震えよ震えよ
いざ岩山八九天道万象剣女盤石天道万象
構成落ちてと
揺らぐことなし天理チョーク敵一先陣剣女盤石
構成震えよ
剣女盤石天道ここにありいざ隙あり天道ここにありいざ新天道地
塵となれ
剣女盤石天道ここにありたふやいざ岩山八九たふ甘い
落ちて
いざ剣女万丈難攻不落天道万象
塵となれ
や天理貴族た
落ちて
天道万象剣女盤石
構成
重い腰を
塵となれ
天理チョーク天道ここにあり
落ちて
剣女盤石いざ
落ちて
や
震えよ
天理チョーク天道ここにあり揺らぐことなし
構成
天道ここにありここにあり霹靂先陣
震えよ
いざ天理チョーク難攻不落天道万象
落ちて落ちて
隙ありいざ隙あり揺らぐことなし天理チョーク天理チョーク
構成
やいざ
構成
霹靂先陣
震えよ塵となれ
天道万象難攻不落天理チョーク難攻不落いざ天道万象甘い天道ここにあり難攻不落
Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed the Abyss 12 gameplay with both builds. It's time for me to talk about my opinions on his buffs, which goblet to use, as well as the final summary. At this point of recording, I've already edited everything before this point, so from what I've observed while editing, I've noticed that the largest improvement in terms of his damage is through any source of damage from his E and his damage from normal, charge and plunge attacks. His elemental burst was the only thing out of all of his attacks to be unaffected by the buff, as I'm showing here from his talent, where all of his attacks are improved by a certain amount of his max HP. And while Planet Fall's description was changed, the actual effect is still the same. The best thing about his buff, in my opinion though, is his Jade Shield. With 150% all elemental and physical damage absorption, and with high HP, you're basically not going to take any damage unless you make serious mistakes, and then this will only go even higher as you level up the talent. Furthermore, the Jade Shield also debuffs all elemental and physical resistance to enemies in approximately melee vicinity by 20%, But keep in mind this effect cannot be stacked. So if you have someone or someone like someone that uses the animal set and they debuff a certain element by a number, Zhongli's hold E will not be added on to the current debuff of said enemy. It'll just take the debuff with the highest value. So if you take another example like Superconduct, Superconduct decreases physical res of the opponent by 40%, and with what this means is that when you do hold E with Zhongli, the debuff that this Jade Shield possesses will not add on to the current debuff created by Superconduct. In any case, the goblet that I would use in the end, in my opinion, will have to be the HP Goblet. While my damage will be less compared to my Geo Goblet, as you can see, the crit damage is non-existent in this goblet. However, even without it, it still does more damage. But the reason why I'm still choosing HP is that I will have a tankier shield, providing me with more support, just in case I make mistakes, which I usually do. And the damage decrease, compared to it, the gap between Geo percent and HP percent is actually not that much anyway, so I'm not going to be missing out on too much damage from the resonance. So for the final conclusion of this video, there are quite a few things to note down. I'm not sure if I can fit them on the screen, but we'll see. In any case, things to note are Zhongli's attacks and E damage are affected the most, benefiting main DPS Zhongli players, whilst support Zhonglis like the one that I have would mostly just benefit from the buff to the E. The Q, which is the elemental burst, is unaffected by the buff, but the damage is increased thanks to the Jade Shield debuff. The Jade Shield and hold E being able to place a pillar in one move, in one skill, turns Zhongli into one of the most versatile characters befitting of a Geo Archon, in my opinion. If a support build, he's able to fit into any team, providing both protection and an increase in DPS with just one skill, which is this boy right here. Hold E, create pillar, resonating, and the shield, all in one skill. And lastly, should you save up / pull for him when he returns? In my opinion, I was pulling for Zhongli without any idea of the buffs being confirmed. It was still in the process of testing him out and stuff, so there was no guarantee. I was already prepared for him to not receive any buffs, so even before this I was already enjoying his gameplay. And the only thing that I can note, however, before the buffs is that his shield, the one where I got him for, I mainly got Zhongli for the support, where I create a shield and then just put down his meteor to support me even more. The shield itself back then, I do acknowledge that it breaks easily. Now, I do know that my talent is only level 4. However, the shield absorption is already 16% of his max HP. So considering my HP is already 33k, the shield that I have is already quite a decent amount, about 6 to 7k already, but even that still breaks. And also, since his Q damage wasn't really buffed, his performance with the build that I have on him, it will only improve slightly in terms of DPS, mainly the resonance being benefactor in terms of increasing his DPS, but his Q, it wouldn't really increase his DPS that much. Of course, it is buffed a little more by the hold E. However, the percent HP damage bonus isn't actually affected by the hold E. It's actually your original damage before calculations. So I think that's everything I needed to say. Apologies for the long conclusion. Again, hopefully you found this video useful. I'll be providing more videos like usual, provided that I have the character. You know, can't really form the best opinion on someone you don't have. It's been your boy Nitrostorm. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next stream or video. Peace.